Hey guys, under Hodge, 7 of Truth. Thanks for finding me. Gonna have a bit of a conversation about a concept that I learned when I was currency trading. Um, Currency trading was an interesting exploration for me. I thought it was my way out of a lot of shit that I was in, and I believed in my ability to outcreate in the reality, making money and stuff. I didn't anticipate some of the things that happened that brought about my bankruptcy, and people were in trouble and stuff, and had many tests in my life about doing the right thing or the right thing by me. And it sucks to do the right thing sometimes, but when you realize that you're working with the unknown and there's the potentials on the other side of choices and stuff, I've just gained a lot of wisdom from the choices I've made, and I'm here where I'm at. So I'm glad I am me now and stuff, and what I know and what I've contributed to. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. That's why I haven't really shared a lot of it in the past, and I've made a bit of an effort to share it now because, as I've said in the past, you can use empathy to tune into another's experience. You don't actually need to go through it. You can absorb the data of the experience and integrate it into you as sort of a byproduct of exploration to accelerate your own journey. And that's one way I've used empathy over the years. But in this instance, what I want to do is talk about a concept that might be a bit hard for me to explain, but I'll do my best. And it came about exploration, like via my exploring currency trading. And what I needed to do in order to have success in that, you had to have a different view on the world that most of us are born into and we accept as the way the world works. It was actually a mandatory thing to have a contrarian view of the world. And what I mean by contrarian, sometimes you need to see the opposite of what is being offered, because what is a lot of the times being offered is a perspective. It took a lot of effort to go through sort of being able to discern my abilities to actually perceive the opposite. So it's going to be quite a difficult thing to explain, but I'll use some examples and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever been a fan of Seinfeld, but Seinfeld was pretty big in the 90s and it was massive, and one of the characters is a guy by the name of George Costanza. And there's a really cool episode where like George Costanza was a bit of a joker, and I don't know how to describe him if you've never seen it before, but he just had a shitty life and a lot of bad experiences and always copped it. So one episode is really interesting. He decided to do the opposite of everything you've ever done before. There's another character named Elaine. She's the girl. She's sort of a friend. She was seeing Jerry Seinfeld for a while and stuff like that. And what happened when he chose to do the opposite of his instincts, his life went fucking amazing. And what happened to this other chick, Elaine, her life went spiraling down to the way George's was. So it was really interesting. It's funny because obviously they made fun of all the characters and all their life experiences and stuff, but George chose to do the opposite and he had an enormous success. And it's a really interesting example of this because the contrarian view that I'm going to try and explain is an ally to the consciousness sort of development of yourself, possibly. Because in trading, like there's institutions and then there's the people traders, like the individuals out there like you and me. And the very fascinating thing is you think you're going to going back to my development into currency trading, there were two types of trades. there was something called paper trading, and what that is, it's just watching the charts and making simulated sort of trades and seeing how you go. There was no money in the game, no risk and all that. So paper trading seems really easy, okay? And then once you start incorporating money into your trades, it's a whole new level. It's 10 times harder, because what happens is you've got risk and you've got all the emotions associated with loss and stuff, because greed is an aspect of trading, and greed is a fear-based emotion. So the way the market works, they're basically scaredy cats waiting for any sort of thing to spook them, and they'll get out. And it's a very service to self sort of exploration. So greedy, service to self, in fear, can't wait to get out, sort of the moment there's fear and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting sort of collection of variables to be associated with. So what I use currency trading and trading in itself was to hone my intuition, all right? Because you can absorb data and the way things are going in the world and all of these events and stuff. And as I said, there's an aspect of fear in trading, all right? Or there's a major component in trading, if that makes sense. So what trading sort of taught me to do was separate the mind and what I thought about things, and sort of trusting my intuition, okay? Because there's a really amazing author out there that I would just want to bring up that I might talk about another time. His name's Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote 2 really awesome books that I've been across. And one of the very first one was called Blink, okay? And my ex-girlfriend and I were watching the movie Firewall with Harrison Ford, and there was an interview with him and Paul Bettany, and they were talking about instincts and stuff, and Harrison Ford read that book and he was talking about it, and it was a trigger for my ex and I to go get it and explore him as an author. The book Blink is amazing, okay? So what it basically comes down to is 80% of the time your gut is right, and Malcolm goes through all these scenarios and stuff of different examples of people that use their gut instinct, but it also required a data and experience component. So he talks about, the very intro was about a amazing Greek statue that made its way to the LA Museum, and I don't know the exact name off the top of my head because I haven't really explored that book for 15 years, but what he talks about is there was this pristine statue that was offered to one of the museums over there, and very experienced art masters and stuff like that would see this statue, they would get a visceral reaction because it just didn't add up. They did all the tests and stuff like that, and they couldn't really prove it, but it eventually, whatever, wouldn't happen, and I'm not going to spoil it. So what he talks about is your experience and your gut reaction, which is your body technology. So if you start doing a lot of exploration and stuff, your instincts can kick in, and that's what I sort of employed into my currency trading, which was really cool because I was going through this battle of the mind and fear and loss, and I was under a lot of pressure, and my instincts would come up and stuff, and what would happen is I would hesitate and I'd miss trades, and then I'd play catch up and stuff like that. The other book I just want to name, share about Malcolm Gladwell, was a book called Outliers, and it goes, imagine people like Michael Jordan and stuff like that, and Michael Jordan isn't used, but he's an example off the top of my head of masters in their craft. He talks about musicians and stuff like that, if I recall, and these very talented beings that make things look easy. What he found out was one of the major core consistent things about these very talented people is they'd spent 10,000 hours in their craft practicing and all sorts of stuff, right? So what it came down to is that, yes, a lot of these people have extreme talents, but a major foundation component is effort, 10,000 hours of work. So to me, that's sort of like a metaphor for doing the research and investigation into things and absorbing that experience and data into your cellular memory. Just an itchy foot. And then that's when the technology would kick in after 10,000 hours of effort, right? So like one of the reasons why I created all the shows I did and condensed all the information into a very pure form of data was to accelerate that for people. And maybe you don't get that or whatever, and maybe me explaining that helps. Okay, so while you think you may be getting nowhere, all right, you may be going through what I call a download phase, and that's what I find I went through. I got triggered. I'd lost money and my ex was suicidal and stuff, and it made me realize the outcome of my life was a byproduct of the absence of awareness. So then I was on this quest, a bit like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, to gain understanding and explore and do research and stuff like that. And currency trading for me was a way, a very symbiotic way for me to earn money while I did my research, because the trades might take 20 hours or 40 hours between entry and sell. And I'm going to show you some charts, simple charts that I've just drawn up to help that. And so I was making money trading in parallel to doing my research, and the trading was to train my intuition, right? So to even make that call, most people that go into trading are purely to make money and beat the system or whatever, all right? And for me to actually say that I taught myself trading to accelerate my awareness investment, most people wouldn't even comprehend what I just said there, because it goes beyond what the purpose of it is, all right? Most people are driven by money, all right? For me, when I hear people's frequencies and voice, and it's very obvious, all right? But when you have to get beyond money to actually perceive it. It's like a level and a step. And I know in my field I trigger a lot of people and stuff, and they think it's me that's got the issue, all right? So the contrarian view of things. And while I'm using trading as the avenue to explain this, what I do is I can read news articles and data, and I can sense the intent behind what that's made to do to the public and yourself, because you're a member of the public. And what you can do is you might feel the visceral reaction of this is bullshit, alright? But you can get the truth out of what's going on, because it's what it's trying to hide up, or what it's trying to cover up, or what it's polarized against. Because it's not about the emotion that you get that visceral reaction. It's like, on the other side of that, I see you, what you're doing, okay? The contrarian view, why I explain it like that, is in trading, and going back to the businesses like banks versus the individuals out on the street like you and me, is to identify trend change, okay? You have to go against the herd. And you might say, yeah, that's easy. No, the majority of people go with the flow, and they usually buy at the top, all right? So say if it's gone up, stock's gone for a long run, they'll buy at the top because they've got trust that the trend's going, but usually it's the right at the worst time, all right? So so what I'm going to show is a chart, just a simple chart sort of explaining that. Alright, so this is what I drew up, and if you can see, the H is for herd and the T is for trader. Okay, so what people usually do when they get the confidence that it's going in a path, they'll usually buy. And the most people usually do that comfortable stage is right at the opposite of when things are going to go the other way. Okay, so, and what I had to do as a trader was you had to rewire that emotion of comfort as seeing it as shift that's going on. Okay, so what I've said in a video in the past was, I said to a really good mate in November 2020 that, honestly, dude, this is the time to start thinking about buying. Okay, and the reason why I'm showing you this now is it takes a lot of energy for the long ups and long downs, if that makes sense, to go in a trend. There's energy involved, there's perception, what people want to trust the market and all that sort of stuff, and you can associate this with the perception of humanity. Okay, so we're in the middle of a pandemic and it's been very bleak. Okay, what tends to happen is those trends, like good and bad in life and society, it also takes a lot of energy to go one way or the other. Okay, so you can sort of see that the governments have given a lot of money away. Okay, so there's a lot of money sitting in the system, in people's bank accounts and all those sort of things, and there's a lot of fear still. So people sit on the money, they don't trade, they don't live, if that makes sense. But say, for instance, in Australia, when things have gotten settled, all that money that's sitting in the bank accounts, people are just waiting to go and have normality. Okay, so there's a co-creative aspect of the reality that's employing that. Okay, which I've sort of said in the past, that that energy of the will of an individual in a collective, that the majority of people just want normality. Okay, so what I'm sort of trying to say here is, right now, a lot of places in the world, there's a sense and feel that things are very bad, but maybe just see that we've gone through a year of bad, and it takes a lot of energy for the continuance of bad. Okay, so if you look at where the herd, the H, and the trader, just realize how you might feel is it's the bad at the moment. But if you look at the troughs, all right, the bottom there, you think it's going to continue. Okay, what I'm saying is, when you feel that way, maybe explore converting it to the opposite, and you're tuning into the collective that are feeling it's at the peak, okay, of bad. And that's usually an indicator when things are going to turn around. Okay, and what my attitude is about this virus, if you go back, say, 10 years to the financial crisis, there's a really cool series at the moment called Devils that was released, and it's all about the European Central Bank and this fictitious large corporation that's a major bank in the world, but it's got a fictitious name, but you could probably put Goldman Sachs to it. Okay, and it's going over all the things that happened in 2011 with the European financial crisis. And I remember that because it was Greek, and I was going through a lot of messed up shit, and it was impossible to trade, and it was very hard. But what I'm saying is that was 10 years ago. You don't really remember much that went on, and in that 10 years things have gone boom. Okay, so I'm just saying these are sort of patterns that you can sort of see. You might be tuning into the herd, and the herd is usually wrong. Right, the herd are usually entering the trade and the perception of the reality at the worst time and do the wrong thing. Okay, so what I'm sort of trying to say is suggest that enter a trader sort of perception of things, You can tune into the reality and feel how things are and stuff like that, and do the opposite. Lean into the opposite. All right. So this is another indicator of that. Okay. Because nothing always goes in one direction. There's ups and downs because it's related to energy and perception. Okay. But if you see, the peak. This is how I used to trade. I used to wait for that dip on the other side of the trend, and it used to be an indicator that trend has changed. Okay, so it's a roller coaster ride. Okay, so just have a feel into what I'm saying. Be the contrarian, and just see how the herd is going, how the herd feels. Perception is the opposite of what the herd is tuning into. So maybe observe your emotions and your feelings about things and start leaning into the opposite of them. Okay? Because I wrote a section in my book about the emotional rewiring I went through going through poverty. Okay? And I had to learn to budget my emotions. What I realized is the emotions you feel are related to the life force content you've got. I was living on $10 a day between mid-2012 to mid-2015. I had to walk 10 or 15 k's a day. What I realized is a lot of the pointless emotions that I was experiencing were, there was two things to emotion. There was a bit like the trade, okay? If I bring that up, there was feeling going through the emotion, and there was the opposite of the emotion to bring back balance. Okay, and what I realized is why I fucking have the emotion in the first place. What's triggering it? Why do I give my life force away into this emotional expression? Why don't I just not give that power away and keep it for myself? And I've learned to do that. To sustain my life force and reinvest that energy into my body and health and youthfulness. All right, that's a whole big conversation. Okay, because the way I dealt with poverty was emotional mastery was a byproduct of that teaching for me, and it's a foundation of how I live on top of meditation. Okay, so that might be quite complex what I've just said. Okay. But just really observe your emotions and have the courage to reflect on your life in hindsight. How right have you been? Okay, how accurate have you been on perception in the moment? There's nothing wrong with being wrong. Okay, being wrong, as I said, making mistakes, is just data. To recalibrate yourself, right? It's failure is just a feedback of inaccuracy of your perceptions in the moment. So what you can do is you realize, oh, I felt into that, I did that, the outcome was this, it wasn't what I aimed for, and all you need to do is just recalibrate yourself. Okay, so what I'm saying with the contrarian view and the opposite, maybe you could be entangling with the herd and you're going with the flow and you're not sovereign of that. You're not aware of, that co-creative multidimensional aspect of existence that we all innately entangle with and we're not aware of. Play with it. So if you observe stuff, what's the opposite of that? Feel that. Because what I learned to rewire my emotions is, like, I was wired incorrectly. And doing the contrarian view, what that did, it sort of helped rewire me correctly so I could sense what things are trying to make me feel, such as news, media, all that. And then I could see the agenda. Okay, so say if you know the outcome, like I did the pattern recognition in the last conversation using Dr. Wesson Price, and if you understand the outcome, like the menu, like was nutrition, and the regional sort of variables help, like with the separate foods that the indigenous would take in the different regions. The menu unique, the outcome common. So if you know the outcome, such as control, you can tune into the media and stuff and the words, and you can feel the linguistics purpose. It's to create a perception of acceptance in most people, and you can tune into the words and the frequency that are trying to create that and realize, nah, I'm not playing that. I can see what you're doing. I can tune into you. I can see on the other side, and because I'm very aware and I am a powerful being that's owning my power and stuff like that, I'm actually negating a lot of that. All right. So the news articles, it's like, no, it's not going to happen on my watch. All right. So the contrarian view. Okay. So there's another thing I want to expand on that. Okay. And that's related to perception and what's accepted. Okay. So this is, I haven't written the numbers and stuff, but this is another chart, all right, because I'm using the camera and it's backwards so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. So if I wrote, it would be backwards. But just imagine the variable going up is first, second, third, fourth, fifth dimension, so 3D, and across the bottom is sensors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all right. So what I've done is drawn this box. Okay. So this is the contrarian view in multidimensional perception sort of thing. Okay. So see that dot that I've got outside, that's maybe fifth dimension and seventh sense. Okay. And I've got all arrows pointing to it. See the way the system works, all right, the sheepdog of media and narrative and stuff like that. It would attack anything that's beyond the 3D 5 sense, all right? But any ludicrous sort of concept that fits within the box of the 3D 5 sense, because that's the way the narrative works, it wants to curtail our perception and our intuitive abilities, because once you gain that, you can see through the system, you can be a healer and all that sort of stuff, right? Locking us into that 3D 5 sense, which we tacitly consent because we don't know there's more. So I've put some little X's in that are given ticks, and it might be supercalifragilistic placebo belief sort of craziness that because it fits within that accepted range, people accept it, because there's a subtle energy that I'm not sure exactly how to describe it, but most people are unwilling to go into the unknown and accept something in the higher senses, or that outside of the range of what society accepts. All right, so see all the arrows pushing into the 3D 5 sense that sort of box the majority in, and they subtly accept that as what is. Okay, so you can think things like peer review and all those sort of hierarchical structures that the individual is quite inferior to their volume of acceptance in society. The majority of people would not go against those structures because there's a fabric of this organization has such sway and acceptance. Who am I to go against that? Okay, so what I was saying before about the contrarian view, okay, of the herd, go against it, play with it. Okay, so what a lot of people might be doing is sensing influence in the news articles and social media and all that sort of stuff to create a construct of acceptance. Okay, so right now there's a construct about taking vaccinations to the next level, okay? And for my mind, what vaccinations do, they chop off the ability to perceive that variable that's an outlier of what people can accept. Because a lot of people are actually probably having experiences that they can't really quantify in the 3D 5 sense. And they're unwilling to sort of talk about it or express it because there's a stigma about perception in our reality. So acceptance is one of those arrows that are pushing us into the 3D 5 sense sort of acceptance range of existence, okay? So yeah, it's some hard concepts to sort of explain, but I'm hoping this sort of language that I'm offering will make you sort of just subtly think things and realize that what are you acquiescing into on a really subtle layer. Are you accommodating the 3D 5 sense reality when you're perceiving beyond it? And one of the things I'm sort of trying to do is empower the individual to accept they're probably working on another level that most people around them aren't. And what a lot of people do is acquiesce into the chorus of the society around them or the local reality, when you don't actually have to do that. You can accommodate it, you can break bread and operate in agreement with that, but you don't have to accept it in yourself. You can hold what you know and what you perceive as another variable with that. And it's very tough to really accept that maybe you're the apex in your reality and no one else can perceive what you're doing innately and effortlessly. And it's very it's like accepting your eldership and realizing there's no one that knows what you know, and what do you do with that? And what you actually need to get to the point of is accepting yourself that yes, wow, I do perceive a lot more, I am actually contributing and all that, because that's sort of getting into the infinite potential. If I accept myself, what's on the other side, and that's working with the unknown. So if you see that variable that's on the outside of the 3D 5 sense, see that as an expression of the unknown that might be waiting for you if you are courageous enough to go beyond what you've accommodated in the past. Another thing I sort of wanted to share is one thing I've noticed. It's very subtle, and I call it a wedge energy. Okay, what a wedge is it divides and it separates. Okay, so what I found with some of the high-level people I've known is there's this energy that's sort of infused to create the polarity. Okay, so bringing up the trade again, hope I got it right way. Say the herd, alright, goes the wrong way at the wrong time. Okay, so this wedge energy sort of pushes, say, the herd in the opposite direction of where the trade's meant to go. Okay, so what I want to do is just offer this is, what I found is some of the people I know that are very perceptive, I might in my mind get totally polarized against them. It's like, fucking not dealing with that shit, fucking them, like, blah blah blah, you know. But what I found is when I make connection, because I do remote healing, and when I do that and I connect to someone via text or whatever, they're in my energy field. And what I found is that when I re-establish connection with that individual, it's like, oh shit, it dissipates that wedge energy. Okay, so what I'm offering is to just really observe your emotional state and how you feel about certain people that you might know that are allies, healers, and all that sort of stuff. Is just measure when you get that polarized rejection of wanting to operate with them, just ask, is that yourself, right? And what you should probably do is just observe this and go contrarian and do the opposite of what it's trying to make you feel, right? And reach out to that person and explain them, look, I've had this thing go on that making me feel like you're a fucking wanker or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's happened to me with healers, and I've said that to them. It's like, what I've said to one healer is, you know, I know when I'm going at you, all right, in my mind, it's time to see you, okay? I read that. And it's happened to other people that I know as well. So, I know a lot of people are very entry level on their emotions. They don't even know theirs versus what isn't theirs, because emotions can be infused in us very, very easily, okay? So have the courage to really observe yourself. This is where you journal and stuff like that. I know it happens to others around me, all right? Say if I'm clients and I'm doing big things for them and they're entering into their unknown. Where's that? Say if you're having the courage to exit your 3D 5 sense reality box and you're entering your unknown, this sort of wedge energy can be really influential, because you don't have reference of familiarity. You're in uncharted territory. So you just got to realize there's a vulnerability of unfamiliarity here. It doesn't mean you have to shift all your emotions and disarm everything and have to reinvent the wheel. That's where you know thyself. And I've said, I've talked about sanctuary state and sanctuary space, and I'll talk about that in detail in another video. It's a whole very critical component that gives you a foundation of a platform to perceive very well. So yeah, just take that component that I'm talking of an external wedge energy, putting division between powerful allies. So I've done the Galactic Special Forces recordings, and just today, March 14th, the day of this recording, I've released part 6, which was a conversation between Annette O'Toole and me, 10th of August 2017. And this wedge energy has always been a factor. You imagine you're a dam, and you know, you get beaten up and you lack healing and all that sort of stuff. The dam can create a little vulnerability with the pressure of unresolved stuff. See, the wedge energy is trying to permeate the dam of your I don't know what. And what I've observed is a lot of people have no awareness that that sort of influence is going on. It's very subtle. A lot of people don't have an understanding of their emotions, what's theirs and what's not theirs. Like I said, the herd mentality, there is a collective energy out there of the herd, okay? Seeing things the same way. Just realize there's a lot more volume, a lot more things that can be separated from just pure emotion. And if you don't know thyself, you don't understand what's yours and what's not. You get involved with people and stuff. Get involved with those high level things that are, you know, bring this up again, that are really pushing the reality, okay? The more you push further up this, the greater the resistance, okay? Trying to push you back to the 3D 5 sense, okay? So if you understand that and appreciate it, just be aware that there is this variable out there, that it's, the way I see it, is it is a constant, but we're the ones in control whether it influences us. We're not victims of it. And once you become very solid in yourself, You can just sense it. And you can observe it and appreciate it. And again, the contrarian thing is, you're trying to create resistance. To me, that's confirmation. I'll keep going. It's exactly, you don't like it? Well, fuck it. That's the way I'm going. Okay. And it doesn't have power over you, but if you allow it, it has influence. So the solid foundation for me is meditation, emotional mastery, and healing. Healing is by far the most courageous thing to do. Investing in yourself will accelerate the potential of eliminating the cracks in the dam of your experience and unresolved stuff, particularly through the DNA and all that sort of stuff. As I said, with the infinity and beyond with Nikki, if you haven't listened to those 2 recordings, talked a lot about the DNA and stuff like that, and karma and influence and all that sort of stuff. So there are teachings out there that are worth exploring. And I'll leave this sort of there, and if I need to expand on it, I'll add more in the future and stuff like that. The one last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is a contrarian view sort of example in society. There's an increased volume, again, there's an increased volume of resistance, okay, to people who can perceive beyond the 3D 5 sense. There's a social stigma called conspiracy theorist. So the contrarian view is, the system doesn't like people that are free thinkers and can perceive stuff and question things. That's the way to go, okay? Every time in society, say back in the 50s when rock and roll came out, rock and roll was ridiculed, okay? And then what happened is this society expanded and incorporated that as a part of it. So what I'm sort of wanting to do is suggest that right now the contrarian view of the society is awareness. There's an effort to, there's a beneficial thing for society of the collective being unaware, alright? So what I'm sort of wanting to offer is, right now, the sheepdog of society and the stigmatization of exploring awareness and expanding and being able to see through the things is creating a bit of resistance, quite a bit. And the resistance, you know, the sway of the media and stuff is increasing the volume of resistance on conscious exploration and seeing through the reality, okay? The sheepdog, 3D 5 sense, these arrows keeping people in, is sort of the stigmatization of awareness and conspiracy sort of concepts, and all it is the exploration of data and creating your own perception of what's going on. That's all it is, alright? Like I said back in, what got me into currency trading was I lost a lot of money, okay? My view on what happened in 2008, I thought America would get disconnected from the rest of the world. It'd be like gangrene wanting to cut the US off and save itself. And that's my herd mentality view, okay? And what I realized is the financial markets are so interconnected, when someone coughs, it affects someone else, like the butterfly effect sort of thing. So I realized how absent my awareness created loss in money. So I went on and explored to understand things like the Federal Reserve, and it's like Bill Steele's Money Master video from the 1990s is amazing, alright? It's out there, okay? So you learn how these organizations got in, and during Woodrow Wilson in Christmas of 1913, law got passed when all the senators were out for Christmas and on holiday, and just the criminal things that got through and all that. So in understanding how the world works, I could operate in it more successfully, okay? So what I'm sort of saying is, this is a trend I sort of see right now of if you remember this, trend versus herd. And right now I say there's a lot of effort and energy being put in to make the herd think that awareness is the wrong path, okay? What I sort of perceive is awareness is going to be the new sexy, okay? It's like, fuck, how big is your awareness, dude? Alright? What, if you remember sort of music and rock and roll and stuff, it was against what society wants, but it was the most attractive to the most people, okay? So what, and this is what people have been saying for a long time, at some point there'll be a threshold and awareness will be sort of an underground accepted more than it is now, because navigating the reality of the uncertainty, what a lot of people will do is they'll find that their advice is totally crazy and it makes them suffer and lose money or whatever. A bit like the metaphor of what I went through, okay? And what people will come to realize is perception will be a very precious commodity of navigating uncertainty, okay? As uncertainty increases, the gravitation to people that can perceive will be quite great, okay? One of those sort of people is a guy by the name of Peter Schiff, who you go back and go and search YouTube. Peter Schiff was right. He was doing interviews of the financial market back in 2005, 2006 and stuff, and he was calling how everything was going to fall apart. And you get all these herd narratives, sort of people just going, bullshit, Peter, bullshit, just giving him shit, okay? Then everything fell apart. And if you remember the trend, he was perceiving it, and he was speaking his truth. He didn't give a shit what people thought about him because he was right. And that's what you've got to learn to hold. Just because all the world out there is batshit crazy and doing what it does and all that sort of stuff, you have to learn to trust yourself and what you know. You could actually be right. You might be the only one that is, okay? And that's where things like Malcolm Gladwell, Blink and Outliers, amazing books to sort of contemplate and investigate, alright? If you're around me and you've done, you know, a lot of Andrew stuff and my Conscious Explorer series and stuff like that, you have to realize there's only a few thousand people that have actually gone that far. I created Conscious Explorer series to condense the thousands, tens of thousands of hours of research I did between, you know, up until the point I started that, because I realized the majority of people, they invest, awareness investment is the periphery of their life. So if you're you know, I've got friends that are married and they've got kids, it's very demanding. Investing in awareness is very time consuming, and as I said in the last video, most people don't have the life force in themselves to actually invest in a shift of their perception based on the new data, because it has an energy cost, okay? Most people don't have the awareness of their life force energy and all that sort of stuff, and know how to recuperate. Most people don't do healing and stuff like that. So what I'm suggesting to you, if you're around me and you're the few hundred or a few thousand that eventually see this, you've actually you've got an edge over the rest of society, all right? And exercise your perception on the reality, okay? Because what you might perceive is inaccurate. What you might perceiving is multidimensional through time, and you're seeing the outcome. Things have just got to play out, okay? A bit like this, okay? So you might be perceiving something here, you know, or you might be up here and perceiving, and there's a time factor that has to play out, if that makes sense. Sorry, it's a bit rough. The way I do my recordings and stuff, You know, a lot of people have bells and whistles and all that sort of shit. I grew up in the 1980s, and we had Sony Walkmans and VCR recorders and stuff, and I used to have movies like Excalibur and Braveheart that were so crappy because I'd watched them thousands of times, alright? I don't invest in a lot of bells and whistles. I choose to offer what I consider the data that I would have benefited from if someone had talked about this to help accelerate me and stuff like that. So just tune into the information. Don't worry about the bells and whistles. It's that's one of my attitudes. I do what I do to shake people out, not to attract people. So if you're sticking around and watching all this stuff, thank you. If you've gained something from this, awesome. I've tried to introduce some complex things here to make them simpler. And yeah, just have the courage to realize maybe what you're perceiving and feeling isn't accurate, but you can rewire yourself at any time. And once you actually get some confirmations and, you know, play with your perceptions of what you're seeing, keep a journal and then follow up and see how it goes. Your perception is a muscle. You just need to exercise it and develop it and, you know, see what happens. Okay? But thank you for watching. I hope you gained something from this again. I hope you gained something from the videos I've released recently, including the ones with Nikki. I've just caught up with her, see how she's going and stuff. And the one with Annette today. Yeah, there's amazing people out there. And it might surprise you who they are. And you might be actually one of them, and we're waiting for you to step up. And yeah, just I hope you gain something from this. And keep pursuing, keep developing, explore your awareness, become that sexy awareness person. Who knows, alright? But yeah, hang in there, guys. Keep it up. Keep exploring and keep searching. The birds are wanting access to the tree again, so take it easy, guys. Till next time. Andre Hodge signing out.